When you build the bridge in?
No. Okay, so on your test tomorrow, just to let you guys know, number 1 says find the partial sums, explain what happens. So this is very similar to on your review 1 and 2. Then 2 and 3 say find the sum of the infinite geometric series if it exists, which is very similar to 3, 4, 5, and 6 on your review sheet. Number 4 says write the repeating decimal as a fraction, which is very similar to 7 and 8. Number 5 says write the first 6 terms of the sequence, very similar to 9, 10, or 11. Number 6 says write the recursive rule for the sequence, which is very similar to 12 and 13. 7 says write the recursive rule for the sequence, which is very similar to 14 and 15. 8 says write an explicit rule for the sequence, which is very similar to 16 and 17. And 9 is a word or a money problem, very similar to 18. So basically, take your review sheet, cut it in half, and you got what's on your test. The directions are identical. Okay, just the problems are different. So when we go through these, again, just kind of remember, this is like that one, and that's like that one, and so on. Okay? So, on number 1, when it says find the partial sums, when it says S1, S1 is just the first one. Okay, what's the first number?
1/3.
1/3. When I do S2, that's adding these two together. So we're taking 1/3 plus 1/6. If you have it as a fraction or if you have it as a decimal, either one is acceptable. So it doesn't matter if you put it as a decimal or as a fraction, it's your choice. So what is 1/6 plus 1/3? 1/2. Then S sub 3, which would be taking all 3 of these together. And notice I'm color coding it just so that you can see what I'm actually adding together. Now, the shortcut with this is you can take the answer you got for S2 and just add a 12th to it. So you can just take 1/2 plus a 12th if you want to. Or go back to the original and add all 3 of those together. Okay? What do you guys get when you add all 3 of those together? Anybody get it?
7/12.
7/12. Then finding S sub 4, which means you're adding all the first 4 terms together. So 1/3 plus 1/6 plus 1/12 plus 1/24. When I add that together, what do I get?
5/8.
Huh?
5/8.
5/8?
Yeah.
And then S sub 5, I think, was the last one, correct?
Yeah.
It's adding all 5 of them together. And what do I get then?
31/48.
31 over 48. Now, honestly, it says from here, once you did that, describe what's happening to S sub n as n increases. What number is it approaching? Do you think it's going to get all the way to 1? Bless you.
No.
Let's look at them as decimals. That might be easier, just so that you guys know. 1/3 is 0.3 repeating. This one's 0.5. What's 7/12 as a decimal? What's 7 divided by 12? 0.583 repeating, right? What's 5/8 as a decimal?
0.625.
0.625. What's 31/48? 0.646.
Yeah.
Notice how it's starting to slow down. If you say it's going to 1, it's never going to get there. Just so you know. Okay, what number is it approaching? We started maybe 0.65. Okay, maybe it's going to get to that. If we went a little bit further, it might be even better or closer. But if you notice, the gap between these numbers is starting to slow down dramatically. And we might even say 0.7, but not, if you start to put them in a graph like we had to in the assignment, it's not going to hit 1. Okay? Number 2 has 5 plus 10 thirds plus 29ths plus 40 27ths plus 80 81sts plus S1. What's S1? 5. That might be the easiest part. S2. 5 plus 10 thirds. 25 over 3, which also is the same as 8.3 repeating, right? S sub 3. When I add the first three numbers together. Again, it might be easier if you take your answer you get from here and just add the next number. You can do that. That's okay. If you take 25 thirds and add 29ths to it, or 8.3 repeating plus your 29ths, you're getting the next number. So instead of adding all three of them together, you can just take the previous answer plus the next one. Previous plus the next one. Just don't screw up the first one. Okay? So what do I get for S sub 3? 95 over 9. S sub 4. Adding the first four together. What do I get?
365 over 27.
365 over
27.
325?
I got that too.
And the last one, S sub 5. What's the last one?
1,055 over 81.
Over 81? Okay. Now again, honestly, for this part right here, you guys did great for finding the sums. If it asks you what number it's approaching, might be easier if you have them as decimals. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so you can actually see what number it's approaching. Might be easier as decimals. 95 ninths is 10 and 5 ninths, or 10.5 repeating. Bless you. 325 divided by 27 is what decimal? What decimal is 325 divided by 27? 12.04. What's 1,055 divided by 81? 13.02. So notice a couple things. Hopefully it's starting to slow down. Right? We jumped up 3.5 here. We jumped up about a little over 2. Then 1.5. Then only 1. So what number is it approaching, do you think? Or close to?
13.
Huh? 13, 14, somewhere in there. 13.5 probably, if it's going to start slowing down. Okay, good. Do you have any questions about how to do number 1 and 2? Again, this is identical to number 1 on your test, just different numbers. Okay? Number 3. 3 has the sigma with infinity on the top. What's that mean, you guys? When it goes on forever. If it exists, the formula you're going to use for the sum of an infinite geometric series again is A1, 1 minus r in the bottom, as long as r is less than 1. If r is greater than 1, it does not work. Okay? So if r is bigger than 1, you can't do it. If it's less than 1, you totally can do it. So, for this particular part, I need you to identify what A1 and R is.
7.
What's 7?
A1.
7's A1. And what's R? 1/4. Is that in the same kind of process as A1 times R to the n minus 1? This was the geometric explicit formula that you guys had in section 8.3. So it's already there. If you don't trust it, could you put in the number 1 and see what you get? Then put in the number 2 and see what you get? Take the second one divided by the first one? You could. That'll give you the R. But you guys have it right. Is the R less than 1? Yes. So I can do it. So what is A1? 7 divided by 1 minus 1/4, or 0.25. Doesn't matter if you put it as a decimal or as a fraction, you're going to get the same answer regardless. Now, when you're doing this, you could type this in your calculator if you like to, but be careful. It'd be 7 divided by 1 minus 1/4. That's how I would type that into a calculator. If you don't want to use a calculator, 1 minus 1/4 is 3/4. And if I multiply by the reciprocal, that cancels each other out, and I end up with 28/3. Or 9 1/3. Or 9.3 repeating. That's what I should have got for that answer. What do you think?
Where'd you get the 3 or the 4/3 in?
In order to get rid of a 3/4 in the bottom, Faith, and I got 3/4 because 1 minus 1/4 is 3/4. In order to get rid of a fraction on the bottom, you multiply it by its reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. And Faith, what I do to the bottom? Yes. Good job. Saying?
So you would simplify it down to a whole number and fraction?
You can. I just left it as an improper, but you can have it as 9 1/3 or 9.3 repeating. I'll take decimals too. It's just whatever you prefer.
Well, I got 6 point something for decimal.
Because you didn't put it in parentheses.
Okay.
If you didn't put that in parentheses, right here, Faith, what happens is in the calculator, it goes 7 divided by 1 is 7, and 7 minus 1/4 is 6.75. So if you didn't put it in parentheses, it will calculate it wrong. So just be careful. Number 4. Didn't even get a chance to write it down yet. What's A1? 3. What's R? 5/4. Red flag. Why is 5/4 not good? Yep, so this one doesn't exist. You can either put no solution or you can put does not exist.
What happens if we do solve it?
It's wrong.
Yeah, but like,
It's wrong. If you try to solve it, it's wrong because it's not actually going to work. Because the number you get, Lexi, will not actually equal, bless you, because if that continues to increase, it's going to go on forever. So really, you can't add them. Like the numbers keep getting higher every time. So if you do try to solve it, you'll get a number, but it's not right. So
How do you know if it doesn't exist?
this number right here, Johnny, if that's higher than 1, no, it's got to be less than 1. 3 plus 9/5 plus 27 25ths plus 81 over 125 plus bum bum bum. If it's set up like this, okay, what you have to do in order to see if it even works, you take this number 9/5 divided by this number 3. This will give you your R. If that number is less than 1, continue. If it's not less than 1, stop. What is 9/5 divided by 3? 3/5 or 0.6 if you want to have it as the decimal. It doesn't matter. Okay? So is that possible for us to continue?
yeah.
Yes. What's A1? 3 divided by 1 minus 3/5. Or 1 minus 0.6. I don't care if you have it as a decimal or a fraction. I'm giving you the option. 1 minus 3/5, since you told me it was 3/5, is 2/5. In order to get rid of a fraction on the bottom, you got to multiply it by its reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of 2/5? 5/2. That all cancels. And when you take 3 times 5 halves, you get 15 halves. Or 7.5. Or 7.5. Either and all ways are acceptable.
Do we have to show that work, or can we use our calculator?
You can use your calculator. But just be careful. Okay, and this is what Faith asked the question about on the two previous one. You got to make sure you put that bottom in parentheses when you're typing it in. If you don't, it's going to calculate it wrong for you. What do you guys think? -6, -4, -8/3, -16/9, minus blah, blah, blah. What's the second number? -4 divided by the first number? First of all, 2 negatives make it a positive. And 4 divided by 6 is what? 2/3. Is this possible for me to continue?
Yes.
Yes. What's the top number, or first number, I mean? -6 over 1 minus 2/3. What's 1 minus 2/3? 1/3. Multiply by the reciprocal. That cancels. And what's -6 times 3? -18. And again, on your calculator, if you would have typed it in like this, -6 divided by parentheses, 1 minus parentheses 2 divided by 3, close it, you should have got -18. Okay? The biggest thing that people screw up is they try to solve it when you can't. Okay? Or they don't put a parentheses around the bottom. That's the two biggest things I've seen wrong. Okay? So be careful with that. Are you guys comfortable with those? So far, I've talked about 1 through 3 on your test out of the 9. So 1/3 of your test we've talked about. Okay? Number 7. How many decimal places repeat? 2. Good. The 0.18. So 0.18, remember, goes on the top. And on the bottom, it's 1 minus 0.01. Why was it 0.01? Because it was 2 decimal places. Right? Or the hundredths, if you want to be technical. On the bottom, what's 1 minus 0.01? So I have 0.18 divided by 0.99. In order to get rid of the decimals, you got to move it over how many spaces? 2 to give me 18/99, which, by the way, is not full credit for this problem. Why?
So I got 630, 633. Do you keep simplifying until?
You keep going until it's as simple as possible. So what number does it come down to? 2 over 11. Make sure you reduce that as simple as possible. Okay? Number 8, 1.6666, blah. Okay, first of all, when you have a number in front of the decimal, that's your whole number, which a lot of people were wondering about on the first one. So just put the whole number there and leave it. How many decimal places repeat? 1. So 0.6 over 1 minus 0.1, because it was only 1 decimal place. What's 1 minus 0.1? 0.9.
Are those little bracket things or ones?
That's a 1. And how many places do I need to move it over? So that's 1 and 6/9. But what does 6/9 reduce to? 2/3. Now, can I ask you guys a serious question about that problem? Did any of you already know that 0.6 repeating was 2/3? Because of how many times you guys have dealt with that one? Like 0.3, if I were to give you that one, would be 1/3. Okay, some of you guys are going to figure that out if that was the problem like that, where you wouldn't need to show all that work. You'd just be able to do it. That's okay. That particular problem I would also take if you give me the answer 5/3. Again, that's the improper fraction form of 1 and 2/3. That's your choice. It doesn't matter to me. That, you guys, is again, just like number 4 is on your test. Are you guys okay with those? Okay? Then, number 9, a1 equals 1, a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus 5. Now, remember, this is one of those recursive rule things. This part right here, anytime you see a sub n minus 1, that means previous answer. Now, I could show you all the work with that, but I know better. It just means previous answer. So if I'm going to do a2, I'll show you one of them, and then we'll go from there. If I put 2 in there, that's a sub 2 minus 1 plus 5. But what's 2 minus 1? So it's a1 plus 5. So I hope you guys understand that's what that means. When you have a sub n minus 1 right here, that just means previous answer, which the previous answer should be given to you. It's 1. So 1 goes right here. Okay? So what's 1 plus 5? 6. Oops. Almost put 6. Bless you. Then if I go to a sub 3, I don't want to put all the stuff in there, but if I did 3 minus 1 right here, what's 3 minus 1? 2. So I have a2 plus 5. But what's the second answer? 6. So it ends up just being 6 plus 5. What's 6 plus 5? 11. A4. Previous answer. What's the previous answer? 11 plus 5 is? 16. Awesome. A5. Previous answer. 16 plus 5? 21. A6. Last one. Previous answer. Plus? Equals? Awesome. Okay, it makes sense? That's number 9. Number 10. I had a lot of people ask me about this one yesterday in all classes. This is the same thing as what we just got done doing. They just write it a little bit different way. When they say this right here where it says 4fn minus 1, this fn minus 1 is the same thing as me saying a sub n minus 1. It's the same thing as previous answer. Okay? So when they're saying f and then in parentheses n minus 1, that means previous answer, just like it did for a sub n minus 1. So for this particular thing, when I want to find f1, because that's the next number, it's 4f and then 1 minus 1.
So we only go till 5, not 6.
We go to 6. What's 1 minus 1?
0.
So really that's saying 4 times f of 0, which again, just so you know, if there's no symbol there, it's understood to be multiplication, right? So what's f of 0? 3. It's 4 times 3. So again, just to show you, so that you don't get confused, this means previous answer. Anytime you see the n minus 1, previous answer. This is the previous answer to 1. 0 is before 1. What's 4 times 3? 12. Good. Then if I want to find f2, it's 4 times the previous answer. What's the previous answer? 12. And what's 4 times 12? 48. Good. F of 3. 4 times previous answer. What's the previous answer? 48. And 4 times 48 is? F4. 4 times previous answer. What's 192 times 4? Say it again. F5. 4 times previous answer. Say it louder.
I think it's 3,072.
Like that. Last one. 4 times previous answer. Yesterday when I had some people ask me questions like this, they were going, these numbers seem really big. Is that possible? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay? Just remember, previous answer. So here's what I need you guys to understand. Don't mess up one of them. What happens if you screw up one of them? And the rest of them are all screwed up. If you screw up the last one, that's not as bad. But if you screw up the first ones, not so good for you. A1 equals 1. A sub n equals a sub n minus 1 squared plus 2. To find A2, again, what's the a sub n minus 1 mean? Previous answer. Good. I think I've hit it hard enough today. 1 plus 2. What's 1 squared? Plus 2? A3. 3 squared plus 2. What's 3 squared plus 2? Previous answer, squared plus 2. What's 11 squared plus 2? 123. A5. Previous answer, squared plus 2. Good thing for calculators, huh? What's 123 squared plus 2? 15. A6, last one. 15,131 squared plus 2.
160.
Done? Okay. 228,947,163. If you make that much money in your lifetime, don't forget I told you that. Okay? I know, right? Are you guys comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Previous answer. Again, that is like number 5. Okay? Number 12 says write the recursive rule for that sequence. If it's arithmetic, it's a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus d. If it's geometric, it's a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times r. Those are the 2 formulas I gave you for writing recursive. So on number 12, it says 32, 24, 16, 8, 0. What's it doing? It's subtracting 8. In order to go from 32 to 24, you subtract 8. 24 to 16, you subtract 8. 16 to 8, subtract 8. 8 to 0, subtract 8. So, is that arithmetic or geometric? Arithmetic. Good. So if it's arithmetic, it's a sub n equals a sub n minus 1. And then what was the d that Andre said? 8. Minus 8. Why was it minus and not plus? Because I'm subtracting. Good. Now the only thing you have to tell me besides that, that's not full credit. Here's full credit now. You got to tell me what it starts with. If you don't tell me what it starts with, how am I supposed to know? 13 says 2, 6, 18, 54, 162. What's this one doing? Multiplying. So that's geometric. So a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times, what did you say it was multiplying by? 3. Good job. And what number does it start with? 2.
So if you're dividing by 3
In the front? As long as you have the a sub n minus 1, I'd be all right with that. Okay? Now the other thing that I also, that Lexi asked, if it was dividing by 3, then what I would say would I'd be multiplying it by a third. Don't forget, if you're dividing by 3, you're multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay? Don't forget, that's a good question, or a good statement. Okay? What do you guys think? This one's like number 6. Can you handle that? Pretty easy question? I hope so. 14. A sub n equals 5 plus 2n. Is that arithmetic or geometric? That's arithmetic, because we have adding or subtracting going on. So in order to write the recursive rule, remember it's a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus d, and then a sub 1 equals a number. That's what we have to have. So, in order to figure it out, one of the things you could do is you could do this. A1 equals 5 plus 2 times 1. What's 2 times 1? Plus 5? 7. Hey, didn't you need to know what A1 was anyway? Then, as long as you guys have established that it's arithmetic, then if we find A2, 5 plus 2 times 2, what's 2 times 2? Plus 5? 9. So how do I increase it from 7 to 9? Add 2. So a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus 2, and a1 is 7. So that's what you could do. Where else does the 2 show up? Besides just by finding the first 2. It's the where? It's the number in front of the n. Right. That's always the d. 15. A sub n equals 8, parentheses 10, n minus 1. Arithmetic or geometric? Geometric. How'd you know? Yep. A sub n minus 1 times r, and a sub 1 equals, I don't know. That's what we got to find out. If it's written like this, one of the things you could do, just like I did in the last one, you could plug in the number 1 and the number 2, get answers, divide them, that gives me my r, and also it would give you A1. Right? Do you want to do it that way?
No.
Or can you guys just figure it out by looking at it? Some of you are very comfortable with doing that, because isn't that the explicit rule? A1 times r to the n minus 1. So what's A1? 8. A sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times, what's the ratio? 10. Pretty easy? Good. Again, those two are something like number 7. Okay? Now we've talked about 7/9 of your test. 7/9 is 0.7 repeating. Make that a fraction.
Yeah.
Okay? So if I got 0.7 repeating, or 77, and I'd round it up, that'd be a 78% right now. So you're almost to a B, if you get everything right. Doubt it, because not everything, some of them are going to be worth more than 1. 16 says A1 equals 5. A sub n equals a sub n minus 1 minus 3. This isn't for today, this is for tomorrow, but
That's fine.
yeah. Yep. Okay, so for this one it says write the explicit rule. This is in recursive. We need to write it like this. A sub n equals a sub n, or 1, plus n minus 1 times d. The reason why we need to write it this way is because if it's adding and subtracting, we need to write it in arithmetic form. That's the explicit rule formula. So let's plug in what we know. What's A1? 5. Plus n minus 1 times. What number is being added or subtracted every time? -3. Where'd you get -3 from? Right here. That's the number. So, to finish it out, Distribute. What's negative 3 times n? Negative 3n. And what's negative 3 times negative 1? Plus 3. And what's 5 plus 3? 8 minus 3n. And to go along with the question that Reagan asked just a little bit ago, if I have it as negative 3n plus 8, that is acceptable because the community property allows us to switch back and forth. So I could have those back the other way. What do you think about that? Not too bad? 17. A1 negative 3. A sub n equals 2a sub n minus 1. Is this arithmetic or geometric? How'd you know? Because you're multiplying. The geometric explicit formula is a1 times r to the n minus 1. I think we've wrote that up there like 3 times already today. So let's put everything in what we need to know. What's a1? Negative 3. What's the r? And that's it. So how do you feel so far? Fairly comfortable? Good. Now comes the last one. Okay, and the last one's where most of your headache came from the other day. I showed you a couple different ways of doing it. Okay, just so that you guys know, yesterday, for those of you who set it up with your calculators, everything's good to go. You just got to plug the numbers into the TVM solver and away you go. If you kept everything in Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4 like I had yesterday. Okay? So, when it talks about writing the recursive rule, here's how we do that. You're borrowing $20,000 at 8% annual interest compounded monthly for 4 years. And you're making a monthly payment of $489. Okay? To writing the recursive rule for part A, here's what you do. You take this percent right there, 8, and you divide it by 12. What's 8 divided by 12? Two-thirds, or 0.6 repeating. Then you add 1 to it. So I get 1.6666667-ish. Oh shoot, yeah, you're right. Hold on. I forgot to do that part. I got it confused with when I type it into a... When you type it into an Inspire, you don't have to do that part. So it should be 0.06? 00? 2 zeros? Well, let's convert that to a 7. Then a sub n minus 1 means previous balance, because that would be the previous balance on that loan. Then minus the monthly payment. Okay? So to get all those numbers again, this one. Okay, don't forget to convert it like I did. Shame on me. Okay? Move it 2 spaces over, divide it by 12, then add 1 to it. That's how I get that number. Then a sub n minus 1 will always be there, because it's a recursive rule. And then minus the monthly payment is the third part, whatever that monthly payment happens to be. Part B says find the balance after the 4th payment. What you could do, I showed you 2 different ways of doing it yesterday. One of the things that you could do to get B is you could take 1.000067 times 20,000 minus 489. That would be what your balance is after one payment. Then you could type in 1.00. Oh, God, why am I doing that? 67 times the previous answer, whichever that happened to be, minus 489. That's after two payments. If I type it in with A and S like that, which to get that, you hit second, and I think it's 0. No, second and the negative sign. That gives you the A and S. That'll give you the second one after the second month. And then I just keep hitting it one more time. It gives me the third month. Hit it one more time, gives me the fourth month. That is an option for you. Okay? If you're looking for a way to do it, that's an option. The only bad part is when you find the last payment, you'd have to do it 48 times. Do you want to do it 48 times? Some people, yeah. Okay? But me personally, I don't. So remember on the apps part, you go into finance. You go into the very top one, TVM solver. On this particular thing, 4 times 12 would go in for N. So it'd be 48. Then 8 divided by 12, because it says what percentage. It gives it in percent form. That's why it's 0.6 repeating on here and not 1.0067. On the calculator, leave it as the 8%. Then the value of the loan is $20,000.
What was the percentage?
8% divided by 12. The payment, negative 489. And if you have the calculator set up on your Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, then you just have to hit second and table, and it'll give you all the answers. And if I scroll over, after the fourth payment, looks like there should be $18,563.04 left. If I scroll down to the 48th payment, which will take me a little bit of time as it's working, here it comes, I'm at 20. Here's 40, getting so close, suspense is killing me. On my 48th payment, after I make it, it says a minus $41.79. Okay, what does that mean? That means you overpaid. If it's a negative, that means you overpaid. It means that you paid the bank too much money. Here's what happens. When you pay the bank too much money on a loan, you get that money back like 4 to 8 weeks later after it's been processed. So that's why when they do those loans, when you ask them on the last payment, you call them and say, what's my payoff balance? They will tell you that, and then that's what you write the check for, so there's no balance left. So realistically, my last payment should not be $489. My last payment should be $489 minus the $41.79. Because then if I make that payment, guess what happens to my balance? 0. Okay, so that's how you do that on the last payment. If that number is a positive at the end, then you add that to your payment. If it's a minus, you subtract it off your payment. Whatever it is for the last number. Okay? Now, just so that you guys know, I did record this one. If you guys aren't sure about anything, you guys keep the worksheets till tomorrow. I'm going to put it up there on Google Classroom here in a little bit. Also, I'm going to put something on there that you guys can do if you do it. I'm thinking about giving you guys bonus points for doing it. It's just extra practice. Okay? I'll explain how to do or get the points in the classroom note. Okay?